Hello everyone, in honor of Blade Runner 2049 releasing in theaters this week, I'm going to be going over the original Blade Runner from 1982. Blade Runner is directed by Ridley Scott. It's based on the novel by Philip K. Dick. It stars Harrison Ford as Rick Deckard, Rutger Hauer as Roy Batty, Sean Young as Rachel, Edward James Olmos as Gaff, M. Emmett Walsh as Bryant, Daryl Hannah as Pris, and Joe Turkel as Dr. Eldon Tyrell. Blade Runner takes place in Los Angeles during the futuristic year of 2019. It is a dark and depressing metropolis, filled with urban decay. Rick Deckard is a Blade Runner. Blade Runners are people assigned to assassinate replicants. Replicants are androids that look like real human beings. When 4 replicants commit a bloody mutiny on the off-world colony, Deckard is called out of retirement to track down the androids. As he tracks the replicants, he soon comes across another replicant, Rachel, who evokes human emotion, despite the fact that she is a replicant herself. As Deckard closes in on the leader of this replicant group, his true hatred towards artificial intelligence makes him question his own identity in this future world, including what is human and what is not. So that's the brief plot of Blade Runner. And Blade Runner, of course, gained a cult following. It had many cuts, first with a theatrical cut in 1982, and then 10 years later it had a director's cut, with finally the final cut in 2007. And yeah, it was a very polarizing film, but one that gained a cult status, and it's been highly respected throughout the years. In fact, I think it was a film that was way ahead of its time, and its cyberpunk science fiction film noir element really inspired many other films, such as animes, Ghost in the Shell, Dark City, The Crow, Batman to some degree. Even the horrible sequel Highlander 2 was inspired by Blade Runner in many ways visually. So many films and video games, everything in pop culture has been inspired by Blade Runner. And of course, it's based on a Philip K. Dick novel. He wrote what later on would be the films To A Scanner Darkly, Minority Report, and Total Recall. Blade Runner is among one of Ridley Scott's best films, but it's not the most perfect film. It's a very flawed film, but it's one that is deeply appreciated upon multiple viewings. I would not fully judge this film after one viewing. Now I caught it about a decade and a half ago, and I saw it on TV, and it was a theatrical cut, which was okay, but it wasn't nearly as good as the final cut or the other cuts, the director's cuts. And it's one of those films that got torn apart when it first came out. And then it wasn't until later on home video release where he had the director's cuts or extended versions that it started to gain a cult following and be more appreciated through time. Much like Zack Snyder's films Watchmen or Batman v Superman Dawn of Justice from last year. It's kind of like that, where it was just kind of way ahead. It was kind of way ahead of its time, and people didn't really know what to think of it. Technology has progressed so far since 1982. There's more inspired from it that we're able to look on it very differently. But yeah, its roots can be traced back to the film noir from the early ages of cinema. I love film noirs, and Blade Runner is one of those special films that combines the film noir genre and the science fiction genre into one. Harrison Ford did this right after Indiana Jones. He didn't want to wear a fedora, he didn't want to wear a hat in this, so he got a more progressive, modern haircut. That's why he has shorter hair in this. Rutger Hauer plays a great role as a villain. He's the renegade replicant that is a leader of these replicants that are running free that Deckard has to find. And Rutger Hauer is actually cast without having a screen test. Ridley Scott was impressed with some of his previous work, and he was immediately cast. We also have Sean Young in an early role of hers, way before Dune and before Ace Ventura. Yeah, she plays Rachel, and she's one of those replicants that doesn't know that she's an android. She thinks she's human. They have these memories implanted into them where they think they're human. And Dr. Tyrell really plays kind of a menacing, just creepy role in this movie. He's almost like the god of these replicants, and Rutger Hauer in a way is almost like an angel fallen from grace who basically not only wants to prove God wrong, but to also show him that he's not all-powerful. And it's really blurring the line between black and white, good versus evil, what's right and wrong. It's not exactly like a modern here's the good guys, here's the bad guys. It's like a film noir. There's areas of gray. You can see where there's corruption in the police. You can see where the androids want freedom, and you sympathize with them in that regard on their quest. So you have a bit of a blur there. And then Deckard is a perfect representation. He's a Blade Runner, an ex-cop out of retirement. He's not exactly the best person. He's a very different character. He's not like your Boy Scout, so to speak. And he also uses other methods to get what he wants, much like the old film noir characters. And visually, this movie is a spectacle, and it doesn't look like it's shot in the 1980s. Sure, there's miniatures, there's models, different matte paintings, but you know what? This is one of those films that looks very ahead of its time. It has a look of some films from the mid-2000s to late 2000s, rather than the 1980s, which says a lot about the film, really. Ridley Scott, he's perfected this film. It's a flawed film, but he's perfected it with multiple cuts. And I'm one of those people that enjoys Blade Runner, but I'm not overly in love with it. And in fact, it's a little bit overrated as far as the theatrical cut. There is a little bit more ambiguity whether or not Deckard is a replicant or a human that is added in the director's and final cut, especially with Unicorn Dreams. Yeah, so I don't know. Blade Runner 2049 says I have to answer that question. Is Deckard a replicant or not? We'll have to see. And it was kind of cool. They used this old film effect to make their eyes shine red for the camera, so that was pretty cool, seeing the replicants do that. The way it's shot visually, the dark nature of it. Again, many films and video games have been inspired by this film, and it's very ahead of its time. If I had to give Blade Runner a score before continuing a bit more of my review, I would probably give Blade Runner a 4.5 out of 5 and an A+. It is a very well done science fiction film, and for a film that's like over 30 years old, it still looks pretty good for back then, especially before the age of computer graphics, before CGI. And I cannot wait to see what the new movie will look like. But again, Harrison Ford gives a really great performance in this. It's a very different role. It's not Han Solo, it's not Indiana Jones. No, he's pretty much a film noir character in this. It's a film noir, and that's what I respect about it. I love film noirs, and they do that with science fiction. But they also have deep philosophical question. What does it mean to be human? Not human. Different areas like that philosophically that is added into this movie that you really don't get or really fully appreciate unless you watch it multiple times. You also have Edward James Olmos in an early role. I like him in this. He has a city talk to him. He is another Blade Runner. And then, of course, the Chief is just one of those guys. He's just like a grumpy asshole. And Rutger Hauer is so menacing. There's that scene with Dr. Tyrell. Oh my god, when you see the movie, it's a crazy, crazy scene. And Rutger Hauer gives such a great performance. You also have Daryl Hannah in an early role. There's some freaky stuff in this, and I just love it. It's just something about it. There's no other film quite like Blade Runner. Really, there really isn't. It's a film that's entirely unique, entirely original on its own. Part of that's because of Ridley Scott's wonderful direction, the performances, the cinematography, the effects, the music, and also traced back to Philip K. Dick's novel. Blade Runner is a science fiction classic, and if you're a fan of movies, film noirs, science fiction, you need to do yourself a service and watch Blade Runner. Now, do you have to watch it before the new one? You might have more of an appreciation for it, but I don't know if you do. It's kind of hard. I would say yes, but maybe you can watch the new one and then go back and check the old one. Maybe it'll be like Tron Legacy, where you really don't have to watch the original one, even though it's a sequel, you know? But, yeah, if you haven't seen Blade Runner, I would highly recommend it. I'm not going to say that you're going to love it. You might not love it. You might hate it. You might think it's slow. It does have some pacing issues. But it's one of those films that is just like, even if you don't like it, you can at least appreciate it for what it is. And for me, it really took some multiple viewings to enjoy the film, and I enjoyed the final cut much more than the theatrical. But besides the slow nature of it, once you get past that, the pacing, and just appreciate what they did with the film, you'll be more fond of it. So yeah, definitely check out Blade Runner if you wish. And if you have seen Blade Runner, let me know your thoughts on the film. Which version do you like? You probably like the final cut, but let me know which version did you see first? What were your thoughts on it? Have your feelings changed? Just let me know what you think of Blade Runner in the comments below. And if you like this video, click the like button, comment, and subscribe for more videos. Be on the lookout this weekend for my review of Blade Runner 2049.